Yeah, I think there's best practices, whether it's in Canada, or.
But Steve Barnes made a lot of changes, and I personally miss him, because I've dealt with him for the last 7 years.
And that's like Elton said, we want to carry that forward.
Oh, absolutely.
And just have that debate. How these pop out and whether change is actually affected. This was kind of our first brush stroke at what some of the low-hanging fruit are issues that we could take forward to the states. Because once you get them involved in an issue to a certain extent, then it makes it much easier to say, okay, now, like SCNRA, what they're trying to do is get to weight, uniformity on weight. Well, the states don't want to talk about it.
No, absolutely not.
So what they're doing is they're developing that relationship on all these other things to finally get to weight. You're building that trust. So the same thing here. We start small and
I like what you're saying. What I would love to see personally was to get the more strength with the pilot cars equipment and get the pilot uniformity when you start talking about training, and get the foundation so they can see that you have all your ducks in a row, rather than trying to approach it. And listen, what the government's no different up our way it is down here. They'll take years to do something, and I'll be in my grave long before they change a lot of it. But if we can change the stuff that we can change, we can change. So you don't steer that load unless you know what to do. You don't high pull that load. You don't survey it. So, like, I'm careful who I dispatch because I want to make sure they can do the job. Because it only takes one pilot car to ruin a customer.
That's right.
It takes one pilot car to ruin it.
Yeah, that's it. Because, but how come they don't? How come we don't mention all the good people when I see some of the equipment? But boy, we could sure mention a lot of the bad ones, can't we?
Absolutely.
And if we could change that, I think if your committee can change that within your own group, I think you're making leaps and bounds.
Absolutely. Self-policing.
That was one of the premises behind the organization. If you were going to hire somebody who's part of the organization, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, then you hire, like a lot of guys I've hired were pilot cars. Well, they escorted as police officers. But a lot of guys have taken the time to show them the right way. There's a lot of times you can put the guys out and said, here, you just got to be behind that. How many people that chase me on a load and that they don't know the route? I said, no. If you're going to do a route with me, if you're going to do a high pull or lead chase with me, the back car has to know the route. I talked to one of the guys the other day, and he said, "Oh, the driver will tell me what's left and what's right."
You're not
that
following.
makes me sad. The pilot car is the one that's supposed to be directing him, because we get a lot of Americans that don't know Park Canada. I said, "You're going to lead this guy down the garden path," and they said, "I didn't know that." But how many times have we had the driver pop up to us when we're ready to go and say, "Here's your permit," and you don't have time? "Oh, no, we just got to go."
Oh, yeah.
How many times have we seen that happen? And who pays the price for it if you don't make the right turn?
All right. And
if we could get uniformity with what you people are trying to do, and get it within ourselves, so when you can see the equipment, when you can see a picture of the equipment, say, okay, you deserve to have that name on your window.
Right.
That's not when some of them I look at, and they've got, I know that other companies have put the name on, and I wouldn't want these pilot cars.
Right. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that.
I think a self-regulated industry is going to serve the better interests of everybody involved.
Absolutely.
But we have to actually do it.
Yes.
We can talk about it all day. One of my hot buttons is we need to be investigating our own accidents and incidents. I myself, you wouldn't believe what I learned when I have an incident. I go back and in one case I drove back 400 miles to a city where we stuck a traffic light that I cleared. But by doing that, I learned the process of what happened, why it happened. And as an industry, we need to be doing that and then sharing those lessons learned with the rest of us in the industry. The other thing we've got to start doing is thinking out of the box. We've got to start thinking what makes sense. The harmonization, for example, they can't get agreement on whether it's 12 or 18 inches, whether they're red or whether they're orange flags. And it seems like we keep trying to put a Band-Aid on something that was written 50 years ago. Somebody thought we really need to have red flags out here. where's the science behind that? Where's the studies? Where's the logic in deciding what color the signs need to be? What color is the lighting scheme? What color does it need to be? New Zealand, I believe it is, they've got one color light on one side and the other color on the driver's side. It's always, so when a motorist sees, I'm just gonna pick a color, a blue and an amber, they see the blue, they know that car is always, that light's always on the driver's side.
Same for airplanes and boats, and it's pretty standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it seems to me what we do is we're trying to just put patchwork, put Band-Aids on things, and trying to make something that was originated 50 years ago, and we keep trying to make it right.
Right.
And what I'm saying, the message I would like to pass on is, let's stop. Let's think about what's logical, what makes sense, where's the science behind it. You know, I think that there'd be a lot of dramatically different things. State of Kansas doesn't want pilot cars to have flags. Because what they do is they get out there, and when you get into a scale house, they stretch it out, 90 degrees to the truck, and if you extend a certain length beyond it, then they write you a ticket. So, I mean, where's the logic in that? Driving down the highway at 60, 70 miles an hour, that flag doesn't extend out beyond a certain width. So I'm just thinking, let's, as we're dealing with industry, let's get them to start thinking outside the box. Wipe out all the preconceived notions and start off with new ideas that are scientifically, logically based. That's just kind of my hot button. We're way over time, aren't we, Vonda? So, what we want to do is, I'm going to bypass on the ride-along initiative. We need to get to the insurance presentation, and we really need to do our break in 30 minutes because SCNRA has generously agreed to let us piggyback on their breaks. And the reason that's important is this place is outrageously high. They want $4.75 for a soft drink. So the SCRA break is at 3 to 3:30. But we also need to do a drawing. You all got tickets when you came in. We need to do a drawing for the shirts. Right? So you ready to do that, Vonda? Okay, we've got 3 different shirts we're going to give out. They all have this logo embroidered in them. We have the denim like all the board members have, and we have a yellow safety one and a green safety one. I'm sorry, orange safety one.
If you want to switch up.
Yeah. So for the first drawing, we're going to draw for the denim shirts.
I need something to, can I borrow your hat?
Sure.
Well, it's kind of hard to come out of there.
We'll pick
I'm gonna-
somebody from the audience.
I am. I've done this a few times.
Okay, it's not your first rodeo.
No, it's not my first rodeo. See, she's not cheating either.
Don't pick your own.
What if I did pick mine? I'll be lying. 714150.
That's me.
Cool. Well, I'll find out from you in a minute what size you need, okay? All right. Okay, and then we'll do the yellow.
Okay, now drawing for the yellow one.
I better put that ticket down.
Both of them in the same spot.
No, you're fine.
714162. Okay.
Barbara, congratulations.
Okay, and then the orange shirt. Here. Okay, 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714163. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 714143. 71 714152. Oh, you have your number memorized?
Just the last three numbers. 1, 5,
Okay,
2.
I'll get with you guys in just a second. We'll get you guys the right sizes. And do you want to talk about, or
Yeah.
the raffle?
Carol, would you bring that stop slow sign in? Yeah, folks, at the memorial parade that we had at Steve Barnes' place, somebody donated this unique special stop slow sign. You gonna show the features on it?
That's nice.
It lights up.
Actually, Patty, Steve's wife, donated it.
Well, actually, wasn't it her sister?
No.
Okay.
Patty donated it, okay, for the raffle. Patty's sister won the raffle, but I said before that took place, I said, if I win, then I'm gonna bring it here and raffle it. So I didn't win, but her sister did, and her sister gave it to me to raffle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, here's the deal.
I just wanna say one more thing, sorry, Elton. That all the funds for the tickets that we're gonna sell for it are gonna be passed on to Patty. Steve did not have life insurance, so her expenses are quite high, so.
So we're asking you to buy these tickets at $5 a piece, and we will have that drawing before the end of the day. And whoever wins will walk away with this unique special sign, complete with a cover.
$400 value.
And it is battery operated. I think that's what the extra case is for the batteries. I don't know where they go in, but.
So between now and say the end of break, get with Vonda or Carol if you're interested in buying tickets, and we are going to give it away no matter how many tickets we sell. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. I probably should clear that before I say it, so,
Yeah, it's not eBay.
yeah. So, please, participate, and like I said, you know, we're not gonna take anything off of it, it's all going to Patty Barnes. And as good as Steve was, Patty was even better. She's a special lady. Okay, we're gonna kind of modify things. Nick, how long do you think you'll need? 20 minutes? Okay, well, that works out perfectly then. We have Nick Owens with Leidos Corporation, and with him is John Berg from the Federal Highway Administration. They're going to talk a little bit about the whole best practices rewrite process and kind of show us how that inclusion process works. So, John, do you want to start?
Yep. You want to do our presentation, Nick, for our slides? Want to bring those up or not?
They're already on the machine up there. So.
Yeah, we have some slides.
Okay. Yeah, what was the name of the file?
It, 0303, presentation.
Yeah, right there.
So I'd like to introduce everybody to a project that Federal Highway Administration is leading on. It's a pilot car escort. Is this thing working?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So it's pilot car escort, training materials, and state certification. My name is John Berg, and I work with the Federal Highway Administration Office of Freight Management and Operations. We're located in, of course, Washington, D.C. And I'm the truck size and weight specialist. My counterpart is Tom Carney, who works on the comprehensive truck size and weight study. That's his primary, but between the both of us, we kind of cover the landscape for truck size and weight for Federal Highway Administration. So we started a project October of 2014. It's a 2-year project, and during the first year we're going to hit the the training materials pretty hard. And then the second part of this project, we're going to get into some marketing and outreach of the materials that we develop. And then we're also going to have investigate a certification process. And we have a hard-working team from Leidos is the name of the consulting team, and Nick Owens, I'm going to let him introduce his consulting team that Federal Highways selected in a little bit here. So the need for the project, just as a matter of background, permitting for oversized overweight vehicles is an authority and a function of the state DOTs, because they're the agencies that are in charge of permitting. Federal Highways, we can play a facilitatory or leadership role in this area because we, at the national level, share the same safety concerns and the same concerns to streamline the operations that the states do. So in my role, I get a lot of inquiries from drivers and states asking about oversized overweight permitting. And you know, what I have to do is I have to advise these folks. They have to contact the states to find out their requirements. And so right now, there's a patchwork of requirements that the states have. There's 12 states that require certification. So part of this project here is to try to make it a little bit easier for the states, for the drivers in this area. And we seem to have a lot of support for this by industry, CBSA, AASHTO, SCNRA. In addition to that, another need for this project is to address some NTSB recommendations as a result of the I-5 bridge collapse back in 2013 in Washington State. There were two recommendations that came out of that. One was to Federal Highways to update their training materials that we developed in 2004 and do that along with CBSA and SCNRA. And then the next recommendation which this project partially addresses is to develop a model framework for certification. And that recommendation went to the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators to work with AASHTO and CBSA. So the objectives of this project are to update the 2004 guidance. There were a lot of things have changed in the last 11 years. Update that guidance, add some things that we might have missed also. And that guidance back in 2004 was also supported by Federal Highway Administration, but the heavy lifting for that was by SCNRA and CBSA back in 2004. This round here, we're reaching out even further to the affected stakeholders, make sure we have all the people that are interested in this area have a voice. Again, the second objective is a national certification framework, and then once we develop the framework and the training materials, we're going to have a objective to do some outreach to the people that need to use these materials. We've assembled a stakeholder advisory panel, and the panel is going to be involved in all four phases of our project, the development of the materials. We're also going to do a pilot delivery of the training, get input from the stakeholder advisory panel, and we're also going to get input from them for the certification model framework and how we market it and outreach to the end users and to the other people affected, such as the state permitting offices. So we're doing a kind of a iterative approach to this. The Leidos team has done some pretty extensive research on existing training and certification programs. I mentioned the stakeholder advisory panel. We have representatives from the pilot car industry, state government, associations, academia, law enforcement, and the end users. being industry. And we're also, as part of our outreach, going to be going to meetings like this one here at SCNRA. We're also going to get input from CBSA meetings and from ASTRO meetings. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our project team leader, Nick Owens from Leidos. Why don't you do a self-introduction, Nick? Okay, right.
First, thank you very much, everyone, for the flexibility with the schedule. We had to be 2 places at once, and appreciate your willingness to give us some room to be in 2 places at once. My name is Nick Owens. I'm with Leidos Corporation. We are the prime contractor for carrying out this task. I've got about 25 years of experience in commercial vehicle safety, primarily from the regulatory and enforcement side of things. I came out of the state of Maryland. I've been with Leidos for 12 years. I've done some size and weight work from the legislative policy perspective, a little bit about pilot cars, but it's very much a little bit. You will notice that we do have Steve still listed. A lot of the material we're presenting today is stuff that Steve developed for the team. We are very fortunate that Dr. Ann Hamilton from Oklahoma State University has agreed to come on board to finish the work that Steve started. I know that they have been sharing a lot of information, a lot of files, and a lot of discussions about this, and I'm very hopeful that that'll give us the continuity we need. I would like to say that I didn't know Steve as well as you did, but his loss really hit the team hard, both personally and professionally. He was a good guy to work with. He had a very good sense of humor, and he's very much missed. But I somehow suspect I'm preaching to the choir on that one. But he was a good person. I'm sorry, and I was looking forward to meeting him for the first time here, and unfortunately, it's a regret I'll have. But I did want to acknowledge Steve and the contribution he made. I know he'd be very happy to hear that we made it this far.
If I may interrupt just briefly, Steve's here. Steve
Fair
is
enough.
here.
Let me rephrase that: physical presence rather than the spiritual presence. He started, and Ann Hamilton will finish the training component. Stephen Todd from the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Association is going to be leading the certification component. And then several colleagues of mine from Leidos, Monica Worth will handle the marketing and outreach, and Stephanie Sneary and Julie Lambert will do a lot of the research. Some of you are on the stakeholder advisory panel we have. I know you are, Elton, and I think there's several others here who are. So hopefully this will, Charles in the back, it puts some names to faces, and hopefully create a bit more context as we move forward with the phone calls and things. Stakeholder advisory panel. We recognize that this is a project that impacts a lot of stakeholder groups. You've not only got the pilot car industry, but then you've got your end users, Specialized Carriers and Riggers, Rigging Association, Manufactured Housing, all the groups that use your services. Then you bring in the insurance industry, OIDA, and it also has a pretty strong outreach into the public sector area with the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, AASHTO, American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. There are a lot of pieces that we're hoping we can fit together in the course of the project, and I'm hopeful that the stakeholder group will be able to do that. We have about 30 people in the group, and we really did include as many people as possible. What their role will be to review and, in a sense, peer review and vet all the materials that we develop. We have established subcommittees under our stakeholder advisory panel that'll do the legwork in terms of getting content into documents for people to review, but it's very important to the team and to the government that everything be reviewed and vetted by the subject matter experts. And that includes not only all of you, but your counterparts in other industry groups. But that's really the key function for the stakeholder advisory panels, to make sure that we've got this right, we flag the issues, and also to figure out how to move this ahead. We don't want to see all of this work come to naught at the end of the project. So a big component of what we do will be helping to frame a strategy so that hopefully we'll have the materials ready to go at the end of the project, and then once we go away, there'll still be some momentum and a strategy for moving things forward. In terms of what we're going to produce, we are going to update the 2 best practice guidelines for the pilot car industry and the enforcement community. We're going to develop a training manual and training course, and I guess study guides. It'll probably be as a frequently asked question, but it'll be a study guide people can use. So anyone who comes to the course we'll walk away with all 5 of those documents. In terms of the training materials, the good news is that because Federal Highway Administration is providing the funding for this, everything is going to be developed in a public setting. We are not using proprietary information. The final products of our work will not be proprietary. They'll be available to anyone who wants to make use of them. We recognize that a lot of the information going into this may come from a proprietary source. If it does, we're asking that you let us know so that we can flag that, and we can either put in the appropriate reference, get permission from the author, or in the worst case scenarios, if we take the material out. We are not trying to infringe on anybody's work. All we want to do is make sure we've got a good quality product. And again, that's where I'm hoping the advisory group will really help us out, because it's not only the content, but just to make sure we haven't stumbled into something that inadvertent. We're not experts in the field, you guys are, and that's not only with the technical stuff, it's with the politics of the situation. So we're looking for as much help in that area as possible. We want to make sure this is a public document that can be used by anybody. We'll also be developing the outreach materials and marketing plan. We'll cover this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but one of the things I'll say about outreach is that there are a lot of different, if you look at the makeup of the stakeholder advisory panel, all of those groups are going to need some kind of an outreach message. What do you do to get AASHTO and CVSA to accept the best practices guidelines? What do you do to get the Specialized Carriers and Riggers Association, your industry? So one of the key things we'll be doing at marketing outreach is not only developing the materials, but working with the stakeholder group to make sure we have the right message for each of the organizations that needs to be to buy into this. So it'll be a multi-pronged effort. You're going to have a public side to it, private sector side to it. My guess is that one of the key ways to move change here will be if the pilot car industry, your end users like Specialized Carriers and rigging, and the insurance industry decide this is a good idea, and then there's a financial incentive involved in terms of discounted rates, lower insurance premiums, et cetera. If you do get some type of training and certificate or even a formal certification, that business model, I think, is what will sell this. I don't think it's going to be a mandate, as John was saying. I think it's going to have to be market driven. I think we've got the right mix of people to at least come up with a strategy on how that might happen.